Hey everybody, welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we have Marc Allen and we're going to be talking about his newest book. It's called Tantra for the West, a direct path to living the life of your dreams. So that's a pretty big title. So welcome, Marc.
Thank you, CJ. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, first of all, for people who aren't familiar with Tantra, what is Tantra?
Well, Tantra, usually in the West, is thought of as sex with some kind of mysticism thrown in.
Mm-hmm.
That's the general definition that most people, if they're aware of Tantra, think that it means.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go study Tibetan Buddhism, or even certain branches of Hindu, if you go study in India or from teachers from India, they often talk about Tantra in a very different way.
Mm-hmm.
Tibetan Buddhism calls itself Tantric Buddhism, the path of Tantra, which they keep saying is a direct path to fulfillment and even enlightenment. So I spent 3.5 years at a Tibetan center here in Berkeley, California. And then I left and I spent several years really reflecting on it all, wondering what Tantra meant in my life. A young Western man, what do all the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism mean for me? After 4 or 5 years of reflection, Tantra for the West started just coming forth, and I started making all these notes, and it turned into a book.
Okay, and there's 2 books really, because there's your first book, and tell us a little bit about how in writing your second book it feels different or the same as the first book that you wrote.
Right, good question, because I wrote my first book then in my early 30s, and it's been out for years and years. It did well, and then sales declined over the years, and then in the last few years I kept getting requests for it. It was out of print. People just said, oh, do it as an ebook, and I thought, well, if I did it as an ebook, I'd have to, I want to update a bit. So I ended up totally rewriting the whole thing. And it was very interesting to see how much of it I still really liked. A lot more of it than I thought I would. But a lot of it I totally rewrote.
And what did you learn through the rewriting of the what did you learn from rewriting the book?
I saw my own growth, emotionally and financially. I'm in a different place than I was in my early 30s when I wrote the book. And I think I'm able to say things more simply now. The older I get, the simpler I can write. Because I do see things more clearly and in more simple terms. I started, here's the book with the new cover.
Yes, yay.
And the opening quote I just loved. I saw this, it's from a rabbi, Abraham Isaac Kook, who I don't know who he is, but he's this renowned Torah scholar. But he said, the higher the truth, the simpler it is. And I've realized that over the years. Highest truths can be expressed very simply.
Yes.
All the great Zen teachers, all the great teachers are saying things very simply.
Yes.
It's just that we're not prepared to get it. We don't get it.
We try to make it complex. It's really funny. I got this book written by the Dalai Lama on happiness. And I opened up the book and, it's just like, what are the keys to happiness? I'm desperately trying to find out.
Yes.
And the first line was, to be happy, do things that make you happy. I'm like, I think I'm done with the book. It seems so apparently obvious, but it's one of those things that in your young age, you just make things so complicated. And it's really quite, like you said, the truths are very simple.
Simple.
Yeah.
Looking back, I really believe this from my own experience. The study of Buddhism is very scientific. There's nothing to believe. You see if it works for you. But looking back, I can see I had all these peak experiences in my childhood and through my life, and we all have had. And in those peak experiences, we really are enlightened, you could say, if you choose to use that word. We see the wonder of what is. We understand so much, but we forget it. We forget it. And we do have a part of our mind when we hear the simple truths, part of our mind says, well, it's more complicated than that.
Right.
It's not that simple. And just dealing with that part of your mind is one of the best practices there is.
Yeah.
Dialoguing with that part of your mind, saying, why does it have to be more complicated? Maybe it is that simple.
Right.
Maybe we're just born with wonderful knowledge and even enlightenment. Maybe it's inherent in our being.
Yeah.
Maybe it's true that we don't achieve enlightenment like we can achieve a bigger bank account, but we just discover what is. We discover who we really are.
It's funny because it's almost as if, when you're a baby, a brand new child, you just approach your world with a sense of innocence and simplicity, and then we get all confused with these thoughts and ideas, and then almost as we age, I'm very close to your age, I think, when we start aging, it's like, wait a second, you kind of start wiping out all those fake faces and thoughts and ideas, and you get back to that kind of simple, childlike. I mean, that's the goal, I think, in terms of a spiritual path, at least for me, to kind of get back to that kind of place of simplicity. So you said something interesting. So you had actually left the Buddhist temple, and you was like, I'm going to live on my own now. Now that you've actually been living on your own now for 30 years since you've left. Has it been 30 years since you've left? Okay.
Yes. Over 30 years.
What was your experience like actually navigating from that very kind of monistic life, I assume, or something that's very aesthetic, to something that's really real and practical, less science oriented and more living, which is the art of being a Buddhist? What was that like, and how has it been like over your journey?
It was definitely up and down emotionally for several years. And I did all kinds of things after I left. I wandered out in the woods. I stayed alone for periods of time, just reflecting on things. I spent quite a bit of time in what we call the spiritual smorgasbord of Berkeley, California.
Yes.
Hearing lots of different speakers and going to different workshops, and I gained a lot from them, from various things, and I just kept pondering the same thing, how can these, I knew there were great teachings at the Tibetan Center, and I knew I wasn't able while I was there to apply them in my life, so they really had an effect. The Lama there kept saying, this is the direct path. It's a direct path. If you get it quickly. And that's what we all wanted.
Yeah, get us here quickly.
Yes, we want it now. We don't want to...
Enlightenment now.
Yes. We don't want to have to meditate for 25 years before something happens, And so that became my Zen koan. What is the direct path?
Yeah, good question.
Yes. And then I started getting answers. Once you start asking yourself questions, you start getting answers. And that's where the book Tantra for the West came. As I reflected on the meaning of Tantra, there is a brilliant concept in there that once you get it, can change your life. And the concept, I remember once being interviewed by a guy from Oregon. He said, why do you have to use an Eastern word, Tantra? Why not use a Western word, an American word like Chevrolet or fork? Chevrolet or fork were the two American words he chose.
Oh my gosh.
And I remember I said to him, if there was an American equivalent, I would use it.
Right.
It's just that there's no word that really sums it up easily and simply in English that I can think of. So that's why I used Tantra. The concept of Tantra is fascinating. The Lama explained it once by saying, you could say there's three kinds of ways to be on a spiritual path. He said, one is the path of the monk or the nun. The path of renunciation. And he said, let's imagine there's a mountain and we all have our path up the mountain. But across the path grows patches of poison. And he said, in Tibetan, the word for poison, like poison ivy or old poison, is the same as our so-called negative emotions.
Okay.
Anger, fear, jealousy, greed.
Okay.
They're poisons. They poison our system. So the nun or the monk comes walking up the path, sees the poison, and immediately goes another way. immediately turns from it and finds another path.
Right.
And that's a totally legitimate way to go. That's fine. Then the Bodhisattva comes up the path, the awakening being who's pledged to heal and enlighten everybody on earth, you know. Mm-hmm. He comes up the path, or she sees the poison and goes right through the poison and right up. And that's a great path. Okay. Then the Tantric yogi comes up the path, and he or she sees the poison and goes right into the center of the poison, even though it may apparently take them off the path. They go into the center of the poison. I reflected on that for years. I pondered that. And I said, that's it. That's what Tantra is. Tantra is going into the center of whatever's going on in your life at that moment.
Wow.
Even and especially when it's a powerful so-called negative or limiting emotion.
Okay. All right. I'm having one right now where I am actually in severe confusion, doubt, transition. So what would be the equivalent of me walking into the poison ivy and sitting in the center? What would be that experience if I were to do that?
You go right into the center of that poison. You go right into the center of that emotion. And a great way is to have an internal dialogue with the aspect of your personality that emotion represents.
Okay.
You can say we have many inner selves, many different aspects.
Right. So I'd go to that confusion part. I'd walk right into the center of my part that's confused or in doubt or not faithful or not in faith. Right. Just walk in and dialogue with that part. So I'd say, hey, seems like you're having issues, doubt part. What's going on? And just sit and listen. Is that what
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's the first exercise in the book.
Oh, it is?
We all have our conscious awareness that is observing everything. So in your mind, you have that conscious awareness come up to that doubt and fear and ask it, okay, what's going on with you? What is this doubt and fear? Instead of trying to run from it or avoid it in any way, we open up the closet doors and look at all our so-called negative emotions. We shine the light of our awareness on them and even dialogue with them. The first practice in the book is to, when you're upset, ask yourself what's going on and listen to what that voice has to say. And then even say thank you to it. Thank them for speaking up rather than just hiding back there being all agitated and upset.
Right.
Thank them. And then you keep talking to them and you shine the light of your awareness on them. And when you do, that anxiety diminishes in power. It diminishes. When you really dare confront your own fears, especially, it's all based on fears.
Right.
The Course in Miracles, I think, had it exactly right, where there's two basic emotions, fear and love.
Yeah.
And everything else comes from that. All our doubt, all our anxiety, all our anger comes from fear. And once we can love even our own doubt and anxiety, once we can love it, it definitely transforms it.
Yeah, I love the idea of loving it. It's one thing to accept it. See, I usually go to the place of accepting. I'm in a place of doubt. I accept that. I'll go into it and I'll dialogue and loving it is a different thing altogether, isn't it?
It is. If we can embrace it, that's part of us. We have that fear. Okay, that's what is.
Yeah.
We can embrace that.
Yeah. Interesting.
In a way, one of the most brilliant books on Tantra, if you look at Tantra that way, is The Power of Now by Eckert Tolle. He was on no spiritual path in his 20s. He never read any books or anything. He just had near suicidal depression, bouts of that. One night when he says in the first page and a half of the book, he was suicidally depressed in the middle of the night, saying he couldn't live with himself any longer. And he felt this incredible fear arising and had this just overwhelming fear that was so intense, he had to confront it. And as he confronted it, he felt this voice in his chest say, resist nothing. And the reason he's a genius is because he got it and he didn't forget it. We've all had those moments of awareness and those peak experiences. And we've gotten it. We've gotten the teachings. There's nothing new in any of this.
Yeah.
We've gotten it. But most of us just forget it over and over and over.
Right.
So we need to remind ourselves over and over and over.
Yeah.
With a new book or a new teacher or something.
Yeah. So that book, your initial focus on the book was, there are 3 paths. How do I actually live the third path and actually walk into the poison ivy and be in the center of it? So one is dialoguing with that energy. What are some of the other insights that you found? I mean, that have really kind of changed the way you navigate your life because of that insight.
It does, yeah. And there's all kinds of ways when you look around, all these therapies have been developed that are really very effective.
Right.
Dealing with, our anger management therapies, really quite good and all that. Just pure meditation is really good. Yoga is great. Even for issues like anger and things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, releasing the toxicity from our bodies and maybe our minds also, yeah.
Yeah, it's even, as Eckhart says, even our dog, being with a dog.
Yeah.
Our dogs keep us sane.
No, they totally do, because there's some type of grounded energy and an unconditional love that they have on an ongoing basis. And so it's almost like a reattunement to being grounded when you're with a dog, I think. It's just like, oh yeah, this is what's important. I know I'm all worried, but then if I look at a dog, it kind of focuses you on what's important in life.
Yes.
It's like food, going to pee, rolling around, sniffing the flowers. I mean...
Right. It's wonderful. And even the path of Zen meditation is really good.
Yeah.
Where you do just sit and let all thought go.
Yeah.
My Zen teacher said, we can all do Zen. We can do it in one breath. He said, just take a breath, and as you exhale, let all thought go. He said, that's it. That's all you need to do.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck with that.
Then the thought comes back. Then the next breath, let it go again. The thought comes back. The next breath, let it go again. And yes, it definitely takes some practice. But at some point, I can see, at some point you do learn. I spent about 5.5 months at a Zen center. Mm-hmm. After a few months, we were in what he called samadhi. You did reach a space where there was no thought. There was conscious awareness. You were not asleep, but you were sitting without thought.
Yes.
And then the trick, though, is to then take that into your life, especially when those overwhelming emotions arise. If you can just let them go in one breath, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Now they'll come back. Okay, you let them go again. So there's many ways. Sometimes there's a season for everything. Sometimes it's times to grapple with them, to really face them, to dive into the center of that voice. And there are other times just to let them go.
I see. What you're saying is that Tantra is one path, but there are lots of other good paths out there, but a definitely viable path, the direct path, is to just go into it. Now, the thing that you start off by saying, most of us have this idea of, I thought Tantra is about having sex. It sounds like way more fun than going into the poison ivy.
Yes, right.
What the heck happened with the like wonderful sexual encounters? Where did that go? And you're walking in the poison ivy.
Right. And I say that right at the beginning when I do that. The first exercising, looking at emotion, I said, I know most people are saying, "Hey, wait, I thought this was going to be fun."
Yeah.
And we do get there. There's a chapter on sex. There's a chapter on relationships, on work, on food and drink, on being alone, on even politics. There's a chapter. Wow. There's chapters on everything. Because the whole concept is it's using every moment of your life as your practice. Mm-hmm. Every moment is your practice. So it includes sex. It includes everything. It includes watching TV and drinking beer. It includes every moment of your life. Mm-hmm. It includes going to the bathroom and cleaning up the dog doo-doo and everything you do, sleeping and dreaming, and every moment. It's looking at it's changing your perspective. And as I was driving in, I heard a wonderful bit of Alan Watts on the radio. Mm-hmm. It's realizing keys are all, when you look at every moment as your path, Then you see, oh, there's keys all over. The plant growing in your window, your dog or cat, a child, what this person says, what a snatch of a commercial on TV, or Disney coming on with a song, When You Wish Upon a Star, or a little kid singing, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, or there's keys everywhere, because every moment is our practice. You become aware of this. So driving in, I heard Alan Watts saying, encouraging us to have an experimental attitude toward our lives, rather than, he said, a preconceived one. He said, we enter situations with preconceived ideas. Even say a kid going to college, you could interview the kids as they start on how well they're going to do. And they'll tell you how well they're going to do. They have a preconceived attitude of what college is going to be and how they're going to do. We enter relationships. We enter a job with preconceived ideas. And Alan Watts was basically encouraging us, let those ideas go and look at it as an experiment. An experiment to what? We can look at it as an experiment in spiritual growth. Saying,
oh, I love that. Oh, that guy just got chills all over. That's
good. Yes.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, it is. It's
just a much more beautiful frame to put anything in. Oh, that person cut me off on traffic. This is an opportunity for my spiritual growth.
Exactly.
That person's late. I'm so mad. Wait, this is an opportunity for my spiritual growth. It's actually just that frame alone is huge. I love that.
Yes. And I've come to see that Tantra, if you look at it as the spiritual practice of every moment, that's why then it is a direct path, because you practice it constantly, so you're bound to get it sooner or later.
Right. Yeah. So you go into whatever the poison ivy may be at that moment. So in the case that I'm in the car and someone cut me off, and I'm pissed as hell, right? Because my ego is flaring up. What do you think? You're so dangerous. Yes, I go into that. Probably not while I'm driving, but afterwards I go into that. Well, what was that anger all about? And understanding, or when I'm late, someone's late, and I'm mad. I go into that and say, what was that anger or frustration or being a little pissed off? What was that about? So use every moment as...
Yes, every moment. So even right there when you're driving, if he cuts you off, you just immediately, you feel that anger. And then immediately you just become aware and you say, isn't that interesting? Feel that anger rise from my body. It rises like from our third chakra stuff.
Yeah.
Anger rises up. Isn't that interesting? And you observe it and watch it and become aware of it. And when you do become aware, when you have that conscious awareness, it diminishes that anger.
It does. It does. Like you said earlier, awareness is one of the key things.
Yes.
Awareness. Yes. Okay, so in your book you have all these different sections, of some of which is sex, because we're going to get back to that. I know you're trying to skirt that, but I want to go back because I think it's for whatever reason. Okay, but you have all these different sections because the idea is about living Tantra. The concept is that the philosophy of Tantra is that you're bringing it to your everyday life. Is that the idea?
Every moment of everyday life.
Okay, got it. That's how come you have all these sections about politics and relationships, because it's how you can bring Tantra into that maybe area in our lives as it occurs. Okay, so I wanted to go back to the sexual part, because why is it that we believe as Americans that's what it's about? Because isn't it, and I know that I was reading on the web, which is always dangerous, that I was reading on the web and it was saying like there's a small sect in which, they believe in these sexual practices. And when you go to India, I've actually seen this beautiful statue with all the sexual positions. So is it because it's so alluring that we think about it, or is there a part that's really about sex and Tantra? Or is it a big part, small part?
It's a pretty big part of most people's lives, unless you choose to minimize it. But so I think it's very important. And I have some sexual practices in my book, and there are all kinds of books on the sexual aspect of Tantra. But it is a wonderful path. Sex. What does sex do? It takes that energy from lower chakras, really stimulates them, brings it powerfully up your spine, brings it into your heart,
Right.
and then blows your mind. It blows open the 6th, 7th chakra. And sometimes, even atheists are saying, "Oh God, oh God," in sex.
Okay, but I thought that one of the purposes, and maybe I just don't understand it, because I was talking to another woman who was focusing on yoga, and she was talking about Kundalini and Shakti and Shiva, which are the male and female energies, and her perspective was that, basically what you're trying to do is become whole as a person, to fully embody your female and male energies in a perfect harmonious balance. Okay, that's the idea.
Yes.
So that's what I would have thought Tantra was about, is to kind of balance these female and male energies. And so that's why I thought the focus on sex, that's what the focus was, because in sex, that's when you actually have the union of female and male energies.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
That's true. That's absolutely true. And that's a wonderful part, the bringing the female and male together. We can also just do it within ourselves, too, because we do each have a male side, our stronger dominant side, and a female side.
Mm-hmm.
And they come together in the center.
Yeah.
The male and female are united within us, and that is right up the center of the spine.
Mm-hmm.
Male and female energies that finally shower over us and fill us with light. The moment of orgasm is a moment of incredibly powerful enlightenment. Because
it's when those two energies merge together. Is that what's happening?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolute union. In a way,
I should be saying, that's what's happening for me. Is that what you mean? That'd probably be better, but anyhow. Okay, got it. So you said something interesting. I want to go back because you talked about merging that male and female side inside of you. And so I know, as a woman who came from corporate America, I've been trying to even I'm like looking for the female side. I'm like, where did you go? And I'm trying to find it so I can integrate it. So I want to hear from the male perspective, since Tantra, that's part of Tantra, as I understand it. How have you merged those two sides of yourself within you?
I studied some Kabbalah too.
Mm-hmm.
And Kabbalah, with the tree of life then, has the 3 pillars. And one is the male, one is the female, and then they meet in the middle, and it's the middle pillar.
Mm-hmm.
And that mirrors our bodies. That's how I've often reflected on my body. Each of us does have a right side. If we're right-handed, it's the dominant side, it's the male. And then our left side is the intuitive, the female, the receptive.
Mm-hmm.
And we have that within us. We have those male and female energies within us. And true creation, then, is that merging of male and female. In terms of any kind of creative thing, I mean, the way the Kabbalah looks at it is beautiful in its simplicity. They say it all starts in spirit, as oneness, but somehow on a high spiritual level, the one divides into 2 and becomes the male and the female.
Mm-hmm.
Then that gets reflected down into mental levels, thought. And so first thought has its male and female, or left and right sides.
Mm-hmm.
And then it gets focused in the center.
Oh, literally in your third eye.
Your third eye. So creation becomes a focused thought. Then it goes down into the realms of emotion. And again, there's a left and right side of emotion.
Oh, fascinating.
And then that becomes focused in our hearts.
So like if there's a male and female crossing of this way, there's one, and then it kind of crosses again in your heart?
They're kind of, you have the male and female in
they come
spirit.
out.
Then the male and female come, and I see it as then both sides of our active mind, our pros and cons,
right.
our doubts and fears, even our plus our dreams and everything in our thought. When they get focused,
right.
I'm going to create this thing. Then, when we bring our emotions into it, we do first have the left and right side of our emotions, the male and female, if you will, the doubts and fears, the undermining things, the enthusiasm, all these different emotions. But then when we get focused, it's in our hearts. So the simple key for creation is when we have a focused thought, and we put the focused emotion of love behind it, male and female can come together and create.
Interesting. You know, it's funny because I was talking to this person who focuses a lot on Kundalini, and you know, that's a lot about like the first chakra coming in. How does that fit within the Kabbalah model, or do they have is that part of it or not?
Yeah, it's right in there. The tree of life is mirrored totally in our bodies, and it's just you want to take that energy up the center and down the center.
Yeah, because she was this gal who focuses on the womb for women. That's where the power is, and actually taking that power and harnessing it, because it's this beautiful, if you think about, I don't know how this translates to Kabbalah, but it's these beautiful roots, right? They're these deep rooted, earthly kind of place. And that's really important for women, and that they often they're mostly in here and kind of not focusing on that other place, which keeps you so grounded and kind of protected and safe and supported, which I thought was so interesting. I never would have thought of it, but I thought it was interesting.
I think what you just touched on is brilliant and essential and can get to something really important.
Yeah.
Our subconscious minds, you can look at it this way too, are incredibly powerful. And we think of things in images just subconsciously. We're not even thinking consciously about it, but we get these images. And that's when we're upset, we may feel like a woman I was talking to yesterday said she felt like she was on quicksand. She felt like the rug had been pulled under her. She wasn't grounded. Her business partner had left. She was in turmoil. And I said, okay, you're getting right down to a great subconscious image. You feel like you're on quicksand. It's been pulled out under her, she said. I said, okay, change that subconscious image and you'll change everything. Because our subconscious is amazingly powerful. So I said, just imagine, yes, you have all this turmoil up here, and we all do, male and female.
Right.
All this turmoil. But imagine that's just the top of a mountain. It's the winds blowing the top of a mountain. And yet our whole bodies are a mountain that goes deep, deep into the earth and includes the whole earth. And down, as you go down, you get into the calmness and stillness and silence of inside of a mountain. And that's who and what we are. If you think of that subconscious image, if you put whenever you feel, I know I had to change when I left the Tibetan Center, I had a subconscious image that everything I'd learned was sand through my hand. And I was retaining nothing. I'd learned nothing. I hadn't adapted it to our culture. Once I became aware of that, I had to change that. I had to think, no, it's not sand through my hand. It's jewels. They gave me these jewels of wisdom, and it's up to me to treasure them and to keep them with me and to realize them in my life.
Interesting.
So wow. Changing that subconscious image can change your life.
Yeah, and you know, I'm bringing it back to this interview that I just had on Moon Wisdom. Haven't published yet, but look at my YouTube channel, you can find it. But what she said is that, you know, I said, well, she said it's really important for women and men as well, because they actually hold energy in their, you know, genitalia. And she said it's really important for women to clear out any energy, because the way that the womb holds energy is that it holds feelings, these really deep feelings. They don't translate to thoughts. They translate to a deep felt expression. And so until you clear that stuff, there's like this obstacle to getting that mountain feel, because you got all that noise, you know? So you have heavy, beautiful, dark, rich soil mixed with, you know, sand and pebbles and all these other things. But I thought but it really is, that is the part, that first and second chakra. It's like, it's not verbal, right? They're just feelings, they're in your subconscious. And it's that just reminded me of how important that is to just really go into it and not discount it, right? Because in the living Tantra, right, that's where it comes from, right? It's the anger. Those are the weeds.
Yes. A great meditation, one of the few meditations I do regularly, because I'm really lazy and I don't sit in meditation, but I lay flat on my back quite often, and I just imagine your crown chakra, the healing, vibrant light, healing, and then I take it right down through my entire body, through all 7 chakras, just one at a time. And you take it into your mind, and you feel it just cleansing and releasing all that tightness. And you take it down to every chakra. Different people hold in different places.
Right.
And at any chakras. First, a lot of the first chakra, it's a lot of people that are holding fear. Second chakra, it's a lot of people are holding second chakra. Yeah, a lot of it's sexual confusion or frustration, creative anxiety, feelings of like not feeling a great self-worth. You know, we can hold it. Let it go. Every chakra, third chakra, that is where people hold anger. You can end up getting stomach cancer if you hold that
too much.
Chronically, too much. Yeah. Let it go. Let that anger go. Let all that, every chakra, all 7 chakras. Or if you don't want to look at chakras, you can just look at the energy centers of our body, whatever you want to call it. It's your whole body. Just meditate on breathing into it and letting it go, healing and purifying every cell of our body. It's a powerful meditation to do.
Now, is this meditation in your book too?
Yes, and sometimes it's just 7 breaths. I just do it 7 breaths.
That's a wonderful little That's a good short one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Just as you were stepping us through just the idea of the meditation, I just felt like I just got a good little little cleanse.
Good, yes.
I'm very susceptible. That must have been okay. What is Kundalini in Tantra? Is it the same idea? How is it related to? I have a sense it's related to these things. How is it related?
In Tibetan Tantra, I never heard the word Kundalini, but it is just sexual energy, life energy, energy moving through our bodies. Give it whatever name you will. We are filled with energy in every cell of our bodies, and it moves through our bodies. And it's very good to become aware of where that energy is centered. In the very beginning of the book, I said, everything, every moment can be an awakening experience. I said, like music, hearing music, you're immediately transported into wonder of what is. I said, even acting, I spent some time in my 20s as an actor, and I had learned about the chakras, and every character has their energy in different centers.
Oh, interesting. Oh, yeah, that totally makes sense to me.
Yes, and it changes. I played Romeo one whole summer when I was about 20. I played Romeo, and he falls in love. His heart chakra is just so open, but then he gets angry, and his energy shifts down.
Right.
He kills Tybalt, and that anger causes the whole tragedy.
So it's trying to figure out where your life energy is at that moment. That's the expression of whatever is happening. That's interesting. I never heard of Kundalini. I always say Kundalini, they always describe as some like huge explosive thing that happens, and you're I'm awakened now because I had a Kundalini rising. I'm awake. And I've actually had those experiences, so I'm just mocking myself. But I've had some slight experiences with those. But when you have those experiences, it could be as simple as just life energy. And I mean, it doesn't have to be this whole explosive mega drama story, right? I mean, it's just what I'm hearing you say. It's just life energy. Breath is life energy. It's just energy. Don't get so, because people get a little bit cuckoo about it. I mean, have you seen the posts on the internet?
No, I have dealt with a whole lot of people. Some have had some these incredible Kundalini experiences, and some of them aren't that good. And but yes, it's just life energy, and it's something you can ground. It's very good to be grounded, because when we focus on the higher chakras, we do have experiences. Our crown chakra unites us with the whole universe. In sex, we are united with the whole universe because that Kundalini energy, that life energy, has come through our entire body, opened up our hearts, and then just merge, open up all the higher chakras.
Right.
And that's sex. And it's wonderful, and it needs to be grounded. Then that energy comes back down, goes back down, grounded in the earth. Have our head in the clouds, have a dream, make our castles in the clouds, but then we put the foundations under them and be fully grounded in the earth.
That's the part that I'm often missing. I'm usually flying around in the ethers and the astral levels.
Then that just subconscious image of yourself as a mountain.
I know, I like that. I'm actually going to use that.
Yeah. Be up here on the astral levels in your higher chakras, but also at the same time you're grounded in the earth. You're solid.
Yeah, I
you're
like
a
that.
Solid mountain.
Yeah, I like that image.
Inner peace, yeah.
I like that. I wanted to ask about money, because I think a lot of spiritual folks are very twisted up about this idea of money. If you are making money or seeking money, then you're a bad, not spiritual person. And you've actually, and I'm sure there's a tantric answer to this, so I wanted to kind of hear what, and I know that you've written several books, but I wanted to understand your perspective, because that's an area where you've held this dynamic tension of the two.
Yes, I really grappled with that too. In my spiritual years, in my 20s, I wanted nothing to do with money. Then when I turned 30, I realized I had a lot of frustration around money because there wasn't enough of it in my life. I really lived in scarcity, and I got tired of scrounging for the rent. And I pondered that. How do we merge the spiritual with making money in a way? Well, in what I came up with, really, Tantra is the yoga of every moment, the practice of every moment. So making money becomes in itself a spiritual practice, because everything else you're doing is a spiritual practice. So that too can be a spiritual practice. And I remember when I started thinking about that, I had this amazing dream one night that I was going up a mountain and it was very rocky. And then I came on this easier path up the mountain, and I took this path, and then I saw this cave going into the mountain. And I went through this cave, and I ended up coming into this huge cathedral. And there were 3 huge tables in the center, going into the center of this cathedral. And the first had all this stuff on it, a white tablecloth, but it was piled with money and little houses and cars and musical instruments and electronic stuff, and just piles, books and music and everything. It's just piled with stuff. And this voice said to me, "This is the material plane. There is nothing to reject here. It is here for your enjoyment and mastery." And I went, whoa.
Yeah, that's a huge aha.
Yeah, that's a huge aha. And then I went to the next table, and it just had the 4 things from the tarot deck in it, because I'd also been into Western magic.
Yeah.
And that's magical path. And I was conflicted about that too, because you can use Western magic to attract money. And I was doing it.
Yeah.
You can turn your aura blue, imagine blue, that attracts. And imagine yourself attracting money. That's one exercise I was doing, but I was conflicted about it.
Right.
And so the tables looked lighter, and it had the chalice and the staff and the pentacle, the gold pentacle.
Oh, the four symbols of the
tarot, yes.
Yeah.
And I looked at that, and this voice said, "This is the astral plane. This is the plane of imagination and magical creation. There is nothing to reject here either. It is there for your mastery and enjoyment."
So when that happened, how did that shift your kind of like feeling a little bit guilty for using the blue aura? Did it just...
Yeah, it disappeared because, there's nothing to reject. It is here for my mastery. Money is here. You master money, so why we fear money is we fear it'll master us, and we'll become its slaves, and we'll lose our spiritual path because we're after the almighty dollar.
Yes.
If it's about mastery, no, you master money. Money becomes part of your spiritual path.
I don't get that. What does it mean to master money? So if you weren't in that kind of, money is controlling me, what does it feel and look like when you master money?
Both Tantra for the West and my previous book, Magical Path, have 2 chapters on mastering money and mastering time. And they're both the same. what I've been shown in my inner guidance as I ponder all these things, you know, is that the path of making money is just as powerful a spiritual path as the path of working through your emotions, same as the path of mastering time. Most of us have not mastered time. People are saying there's not enough time. You'll never hear me say there's not enough time. I have plenty of time. And I have plenty of money. I have an abundance of everything. Because I've mastered it. Meaning it doesn't interfere with my spiritual life whatsoever. It's not even, once you look at make money as a spiritual practice, then it doesn't, it's just like in my dream. There's nothing to reject in it. It's here to master and enjoy. If I get to enjoy money and to realize money can be very helpful to yourself and to all kinds of other people. I want to support literally hundreds of people.
So what was on the third table? I'm sorry I interrupted your story because I have so many ideas. Sorry.
The third table was the best of all. The third table was right in the center, and it was shimmering. It had a white tablecloth, and it was shimmering. It looked like you could put your hand right through it, and there was nothing on it. And the voice said, "This is the spiritual plane. There's nothing to attain here. You've always been here. This is who and what you are, a spiritual being." And I just put my arms out, and I floated up into the center of the space. I floated, just bathed in golden light, rushing from head to toe through me, golden light. And I woke up like that spread eagled on my bed, still feeling the golden light bathing my body. Spiritual light. And so I thought, we are spiritual beings. We are all enlightened beings. We just need to realize it.
Beautiful. That is a beautiful. I want to come to step into your mind. That's the most awesome meditation ever. You said that was a meditation that you had?
Yes, it was a dream. A dream.
A dream that you had at night?
A dream I had at night, yes.
Wow. That is a powerful unconscious.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. All right. I have to ask because I have an issue with I never have enough time. I don't have enough time. So how did you master time?
You stop saying you don't have enough. You start affirming there's plenty of time. I have plenty of time. Whenever any anxiety comes up, the first chapter in Tantra introduces Tantra. The second chapter is one of the longest. It's all about affirmations and their power, because that's what I took away from a lot of my studies of East and West. Just affirmations. It's putting we did mantras at the Tibetan Center, like Om Mani Padme Hum, or someone translated as Hail to the Jewel of Bliss in the Lotus of Consciousness. We were repeating. Well, affirmations do that. So whenever any anxiety arises about anything, you asked about time. Okay, I don't have enough time. Immediately go cancel, let that thought go, and say to yourself strongly, whatever words feel good to you, but something like, I now have plenty of time. There's no shortage of my time. Everything is happening in its own perfect time. Its own perfect time. I do things in an easy and relaxed manner, a healthy and positive way, in its own perfect time for the highest good of all.
Beautiful. So that's mastery, when you can actually have the awareness to know that having these negative discursive thoughts, catch it before it grows into a full plant. Stop watering it, and instead kind of shift your mind to, I have infinite amount of time. Time is a construct, or whatever you want to say.
Yes.
Interesting. And that helped you master it.
Definitely.
What did you say to master money, so that you wouldn't have money control you? What were the affirmations that you said so that you could be master?
At my financial low, I realized I had the belief that I was out of control, and that I had all this anxiety around it. It was like I was a fool with money. I was telling myself I was a fool with money. Whatever I had, I blew, and I was out of control. I realized that's what I was saying to myself. Those were the subconscious images that came up. The affirmation I found is, I am sensible and in control of my finances. I am creating total financial success in an easy and relaxed manner, in a healthy and positive way.
I love the easy and relaxed manner, healthy and positive way. Love that piece.
Yes, it's a really good piece. Those 4 words, looking back, I think were incredibly powerful in my life. Saying a few thousand times once I got that, you know, healthy, positive, easy, relaxed, easy. And I did. Once I came up with that affirmation, I remember I wrote it down 5 times. I put it on a wall in big letters. I carried it around with me. Whenever anxiety around money came up, it finally became even habitual to just let it go, say, I'm sensible and in control of my finances. I'm creating total financial success. Money had been so complicated before that. After affirming that, it got very simple. Money is very simple. There's nothing complex about it. You just have to make more than spend.
And you never got into the, I want my electronics, and, you know, when all those things started to control you, how did you master and not let those things control you?
I never even had a problem with it.
You weren't kind of like, you know, because you see these investment bankers. I have had a string of dating 1 or 2 investment bankers, and it's sadly for me, and maybe for them, I don't know. But for me, at least, it's always like, you know, I'm just going to make this amount of money, and then I'm going to leave and do what I really want. And, you know, 20 years later, 30 years later, I meet them, and they're like, I never got to do what I really wanted, but I have you know, buckets of money, right?
Yeah. And they still aren't happy because money does not make you happy.
I know. So I've just completely enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Folks, hold up your book again so we can see it.
Oh, yes.
Tantra for the West, a direct path to living the life of your dreams. Ding! Yay! Thank you so much. It was just been so delightful talking to you. What a wonderful mind you have.
Oh, thank you so much, CJ. I loved your interview.
Okay.
You have a wonderful mind, too.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show, and love your support in any way by giving me comments below, or to subscribe to the show, or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.